Hair Salon. When the scene comes up, no, you don't get to do that yet. Give me a second. I know it's a little black right now. You're going to see it in a second. Once again, welcome to another edition of Real Talk, Straight Talk. I got to say a big shout out to all our sponsors. We have the Ween here, the Ween Community Center. Big shouts to Pastor Thomas, Pastor Charmaine. People, Pastor Charmaine is on cameras tonight, so you know what? Like I said, you're going to see everything when the blackout lifts. We've got the ladies from the Middlesex Health Unit.
Regional HIV and AIDS Connection.
The Regional HIV AIDS Connection. We've got Angel in the middle. Angel kicked me off the show today. That's okay. I don't mind getting kicked off occasionally, right? So right now I'm going to have Pastor Charmaine introduce us to the Fixed Hair Salon, right? So we're going to do it like this. And as you see, we've got Angel. So now we're going to show everybody's in the studio. I want everybody to wave, everybody in the studio. Actually, tonight we've got some guests. I'm not going to swing the camera around and show everybody. But like I said, we have the ladies here. And you saw the flyer, you saw the commercial. So you know we're going to talk a little bit. Well, not even a little bit. We're going to talk a lot about AIDS. I think in the commercial we said that 16% of all new infections in Ontario is in the black community. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Angel. Angel, introduce the ladies for me, and then at some point I will come up and ask some questions. Or you know what? Maybe tonight I'll even stay behind the camera.
No. Well, welcome everybody to the show. And tonight, as Colin said, we have some beautiful ladies coming to talk to us about some very important topics that we choose not to address in the community because we think it's a dinosaur. But to my left here, I have beautiful Wimbai Munanyara, and she can introduce herself a little more.
Hi, I'm Wimbai Munanyara Chuku. I work at the London Intercommunity Healthcare Center. I work there as an HIV/AIDS support worker in a clinic called Options Clinic, where we do anonymous HIV testing. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And to my right, I have beautiful Mercy. She's also going to introduce herself, and also doing amazing things in the community.
Hi everyone, so my name is Mercy Nobe, and I work for Regional HIV and AIDS Connection as a multicultural HIV prevention coordinator.
So I do a lot of education. Probably a lot of you can actually recognize my face and my voice too. I'm always in the community trying to push this messaging on HIV and AIDS, doing a lot of education, prevention, and referrals.
Awesome, awesome. So as you all know today, it's a topic that with the 1st of December coming up, it's a National AIDS Awareness Day, right? And so that is something that we need to also recognize. And I'm glad that we were able to do this podcast in lieu of that. And and also I'm sure you've seen flyers going around on the weekend. We're going to be holding a very important event, mostly targeted to women, just so that they get to know themselves, understand what the HIV testing is about, understand what a PEP is, and also understand what the PrEP is. So today we're going to dive into all these topics, and please call in if you have any questions. And I'm also going to call Colin to come in and take over his show.
Oh, please. I'm staying behind the camera. I'm going to stay here. Once again, the number is 519-694-3429. We are also on Facebook at the time. We're going to try to access the messages from Facebook. And like I said, if you want to call in, 519-694-3429. We do appreciate your comments. We do appreciate any questions that you might have. And yes, I think I'm going to stay here for a while and let the ladies do their thing. Once again, we're going to talk about, I'm also going to talk about the fact that there is going to be, what do we call it, a conference when you guys get together right here at the Fixed Hair Salon. People, look it up. The Fixed Hair Salon is located on Hamilton Road in London, Ontario. So many things to talk about. This has been one of those taboo subjects. and we're going to have this discussion, and then I think, you know, in the new year, we're also going to invite them back, and we're going to continue to have these discussions, right? So Angel, take it, talk again about what's going to happen here in a few days. Or is it a few days, or is it like a week or so?
It is actually a few days. It will be this Saturday, the 27th of November.
Yeah.
So we are going to have a women's event where Bimbai can talk a little more about that, because the Options Clinic will be coming into the salon, and they will have more to do with that. So please.
So basically this Saturday, we're inviting African Caribbean Black women to join us here for what we're calling a wellness event. We're looking to do HIV testing, but we didn't want to structure it as HIV testing. It was more of wellness in terms of Black women here in London, some of the challenges that they're facing in terms of being well. So we used testing and education sessions as well to talk about self-care, because testing, a lot of people don't realize this, but testing for HIV is actually good self-care. So we're trying to target for Black women to come and join us and just network and talk about what you want to talk about.
That's great. And Mercy, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to be talking more about the strategies that women can use to accommodate their self-care, like doing yoga, you know, coming to hang out at the salon, because sometimes hair is more than hair, you know. We can share a lot of information sitting in that chair, right? So yeah, we're trying to empower everybody, empower each other really.
So some people will be concerned about the fact that, okay, you are just calling out the Afro-Caribbean women only. What's happening with the men? Don't they need to know about this?
So that's a good question, Angel. They do. They matter. Everybody matters. But in this sense, we decided to do it first with the women. We will have other series that we do for men, with men, and for men too. And I believe at LHC, actually, my co-counselor at LHC will be having an event as well. We will post things on Options. I believe it's on Saturday too. So yeah, we also do things for the men too.
Awesome, awesome. And there is going to be a focus group. And this focus group is going to be targeted at finding out more information about how the community sees HIV, and also how they see what their thoughts are, basically, right? So we would like, if you would like to sign up for it, feel free to reach out. There's an email that's attached to the flyer that's going to be going out. Just reach out. There's only 10 people who can participate in the focus group. So that's what we're looking for, fortunately. And yeah, Colin, do you have anything you would like to?
There's so many questions, right? And one of the first things that I want to actually articulate before I get to a question is that HIV and AIDS hasn't been talked about in a while. And because of that, it seems that people have taken it out of their consciousness, right? Can you give us a little bit of I don't know if it's testimony as to, you know, the consequences. I need people to understand the consequences again, because like I said, you know, we've been talking about COVID for the last almost 2 years now. And even before that, HIV and AIDS was already out of the consciousness, right? And in fact, I can talk about myself. It was out of the consciousness until this came up, and I looked up the actuality and the statistics that, like I said, and once again, I'm going to talk about those statistics. 16.9% of new infections occur in the Black community. Now, we all know, especially in London, Ontario, we do not make up 16.9% of the population, right? So I want you to, you know, fill us in, let us know, I think not the consequences, but yeah, the consequences, because people have to realize what's at stake.
I
I can take that. Thank you for that, Colin. Actually, that's a very good question. You know, when I do HIV testing, public health actually has what they call priority populations. And actually, ACB people are amongst the priority population. They're second, if I'm not mistaken. So we would have gay and bisexual men. Then we would have the ACB.
Clarify
population.
ACB for
So African, Caribbean, Black people.
Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, and it's good that you pointed out that you use the word consequence. How I explain it to a lot of people, because a lot of people don't realize that there is a difference between HIV and AIDS. HIV, which is the human immunodeficiency virus, is a virus, it's a condition that if you do not take treatment can become a life-threatening disease, which is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, which is AIDS. So the problem with not getting tested for HIV is you could be living with HIV and not know it. How long are you going to wait until it's too late to go on treatment? It's going to turn into AIDS. So it doesn't have to be life-threatening. One of the consequences that we see is that people will probably not want to test, and we have so many prevention strategies, and I think like Mercy will touch up upon those. So that's why I'm always telling people to come and do self-care and come and get tested.
Okay.
So,
sorry, if I could interject.
Okay.
Just in light of that testing, right? I think we had this conversation before where you said, okay, people have to test and understand their status. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to know. Sometimes it's better not knowing that way. But there's a lot of people like that. So, Mercy, I could take that to you. How would you address that situation where for some it is a situation where now I know I have it, I'm going to stress about it, and probably my health will actually deteriorate because of the stress that it's going to bring knowing that I have it? Because yes, as much as it's not talked about, it's still a topic that, you know, it's there.
yeah.
And because it's not talked about, people don't want to believe that it can happen. And if I don't know that it's happening, I'm okay. But the fact that I test and I find out I am,
And then you suffer.
what happens after that?
Yeah, and that's a huge issue in the African, Caribbean, and Black communities. The stigma associated with HIV is huge. So you'll find that you have a friend who's HIV positive, but because they're afraid to share, they're dying inside, you know. They don't, because of the stigma, if they tell you, you're gonna, you know, tell the whole community. So that's why people choose to be quiet and not talk about it. So our agency welcome people who don't have anybody to talk to. So we actually have counselors. We have like support groups where people can actually reach out and have one-on-one with people in the same statuses as them. And we are the, you know, the shoulder to cry on, really. So you don't have to suffer on your own. You don't have to hide it. There are people out there that you can talk to that can actually support you and understand the situation that you're going through. And also, knowing it's beautiful because there is medication now. If you take your medication right and you eat right, you get to a phase that we call undetectable, where the virus that you have in your system is dormant. It's there. It's not affecting you. Like as Bimbai mentioned that when you get HIV and AIDS are two different things. There's two different stages. So you get the virus at the onset. You have HIV when you test. You take medication. So the medication actually stops the progression of the virus taking over your T4 cells in your system to the AIDS stage. So nowadays, a lot of people stay at the HIV stage. They don't progress to the AIDS stage. So that's why you don't see a lot of people talking about AIDS, because nobody gets to that stage because of the medication that we have So the medication, it's no longer like a cocktail like it was before. So I keep going back to before, because a lot of people knew AIDS when a lot of people were dying. But nowadays, people are not dying because they don't have AIDS, they have HIV. So when you take that medication, it's just one pill a day that you take. So when you take that medication right, you actually become healthy like anybody else. It's like the virus is there in your system, but it's dormant, it's sleeping. It's not impacting your immune system in any way. So that's why sometimes people forget that it's not there, but it's still there. And being here in Canada as well, you don't see a lot of billboards written HIV here, AIDS here. Like, for example, I'm from Southern Africa. You know, it was a huge deal, and up to now, it's huge. So the messaging is all over. You see it all over the place, and you're like, oh, you're always reminded constantly, right, on your conscience. But here in Canada, you don't see that. So working with newcomers, for example, you always notice that when they come into the country, they have that messaging because they see it all over back home. And then when they come here, they think it doesn't exist, but it does. So at this point, sometimes a lot of people get infected here because they think, well, Canada is a developed country, there's no HIV. No, it's still there, just that people don't talk about it, again, because of the stigma. The stigma back home, if I can do a comparison, it's way less than here. Because you see a lot of people who are in the same boat, you see a lot of people who talk openly about it, but you come here, you're kind of like, oh no, oh my gosh, everybody's gonna know my status. No one is saying anything about it, but there's so many people. I've been working for RTST for a while, and there's so many African, Caribbean, and Black people living with HIV. So the only way you can tell that somebody is living with HIV is to do blood work, do a test. You cannot tell by looking at the person that this person has HIV. No, because of the medication, people are living healthy lives. So being undetectable, it also means that if you're on medication, you cannot transmit the virus from one person to another. So we call it U equal U. Undetectable means untransmittable. So it's now another way to, a prevention way. So if you take your medication, your partner won't get the virus. But we also have a pill that people can take. It's a HIV medication, but it's one pill. We call it PrEP. So the pill, you take it every single day, and you would never get HIV. It prevents the person from getting HIV. On top of using protection, which is a condom. Okay. So these are just like prevention ways.
Okay.
I know I've stretched a lot.
So yeah, so with questions, you mentioned the pill. So once the person with HIV, they start taking this PrEP pill, is it a lifetime thing now? They have to take it for life? Or is there a time that they stop taking it?
Okay, so it's not the person who is HIV positive who takes the pill.
Okay.
So it's the person who's HIV negative.
Okay.
So you have to get tested and make sure that you're negative to take the pill. So if you take the pill, yes, you have to take it like for lifetime. So depending on the activities that you engage in, so you have to take it for at least, for people with like vaginas, for at least 20 days, and then you'll be safe. You can engage in an activity without use of a condom. You won't get the HIV. And remember, this only prevents you from getting HIV, not other STIs. It's just HIV, right? And if you're gonna engage in like anal, if you allow me to say some of the things, so within like, it absorbs in like 2 weeks, I think, I believe. I think it's 2 weeks. So you just take the pill religiously every single day.
So it's not one of those pills that you're just going to pop today and say, I'm safe?
No. So you have to take it for at least 20 days for vaginal, and then at least 2 weeks for like the anal, so that the membranes absorb the pill, and then you protect yourself that way.
And we love what you do in the community. I mean, like Mercy goes around all the social places like barbershops and salons, and you allow us to protect our clients, and she gives us like handouts of condoms and lubricants, and pamphlets. So if you're ever in the salon and you need any of those things, please make sure you grab some at the counters and ask more questions. There's cards too where you can reach out and get more information about testing. So this weekend, if you're interested in coming to get tested, we will be hosting something at the Fix. And another thing that people will be concerned about, if they're gonna get tested, they know you and you know them, or they don't necessarily have to be tested here, but it's a issue about privacy. You're gonna meet them on the street. They're gonna feel like, okay, she's judging me or whatever. How do you deal with that, and how are they supposed to deal with that? Like, let's say I want to come and get tested, but I don't want the rest of the world to know that, and I don't want you to acknowledge me on the street that, hey, how are you feeling? I don't want my personal stuff to be known. So what happens after I get tested?
I think okay, sorry.
Okay, so when we do the test, I will elaborate more on options. Options is an anonymous testing, right? So first of all, for those people that do not know me, you are safe. Safe in that it's anonymous anyway. I don't need names. I don't need anything that identifies who you are. What we do is what we call a flow sheet, where we talk about, so it's almost like a conversation where we're talking about some of the activities that could put people at risk, some of the questions that they have. We will talk about PrEP. I will tell them more about PrEP. I'll also take time to explain U equals to U. And we just talk about some of the things that worry them, what is called a window period, because sometimes what happens with HIV, it may not present itself straight after exposure to HIV, right? This is what we call a window period. Within the window period, which is approximately 3 months we would say, if somebody has engaged in activities that put them at risk within that 3 months, then we would definitely ask them to come and test after the window period, just to make sure that HIV is not within the body, but the test didn't pick up the antigens, okay? Yeah. So it's anonymous first and foremost. And then secondly, the work that we do is work that we have to sort of pledge for confidentiality.
Absolutely.
There's serious implications for leaking information about anyone. And I'll be honest with you, I'll take it to a personal note. I remember the first time I got tested for HIV, and I think a lot of people that are close to me know this. I felt so much shame and stigma. And I had gone there with a cousin of mine, and I said to her, if I ever do this work, I never want anybody to feel the way we feel today. I could not ever do that to someone.
And because of stigma, we understand what the people we work with go through. So I wouldn't want to jeopardize their personal lives outside work. I don't want people to, to come and cry to me, and then the following day I'm spreading, I'm using their agony, if I may put it that way, like to make fun out of, you know what I mean? So it's also like that personal empathy within the person, that you don't want the people to be dealing with this every single day outside. They're coming to you. This is a safe haven. So I have to make sure, my conscience tells me that I have to make sure that I keep this as private as possible. So sometimes I see people on the street, I'll just pretend like I don't know you, unless you come and say hi to me and then you are comfortable, then yes, it's a conversation, right? But just because I'm talking to you, probably because we're doing this kind of work, we're already stigmatized, right? So people see us, they're like, oh, they connect with HIV. So when you see me outside, you already think like, oh my gosh, they saw me speaking to this person, they're already associating. But I always tell people that, no, I don't only talk to you. I also have a life. I live in this community, So don't associate me and work when I'm outside. So whatever I do stays there. When I'm outside, I'm me. I don't have that title. The title is left in the office, you know. So it's just like having boundaries as well as a human being.
Yeah, and I think also to just normalize, you know, like you said, sometimes people will see someone talking to you and assume already. If they are, if they're not, so what?
So what?
I tell you, like, I do HIV tests on the street sometimes, and I try not to be stigmatizing about it. I'll say, hey, I offer HIV testing. If you know anybody that wants to have a test, let me know. And sometimes you'll find someone walk up to you in the street and say, hey, can you test me right here, right now?
I think maybe for us, we're so used to it that we don't see the big deal. It's just like anybody who has a chronic disease, right? So you have diabetes, you're not going to be like, oh my gosh, I have diabetes, and then, no, it's the same thing, you know.
So, in essence, I get tested, it's anonymous. It's not going to go to my doctor's office, and if I need medical records and they pull up information, it's going to go to my worker, and it's going to show that, oh yeah, this person has this. What, in that case, how am I protected with my privacy? As much as you say, I'm safe coming to you guys, it's private, it's anonymous. How is that protected?
So when particularly I test you and you get tested at the options clinic, so it's Richard and I, what we would do is, and in our flow sheet, we actually ask, do you have people that would support you if you found out that this test was positive? We also have the question, do you know RHAC? Those are people that you can link to that are out of your social circles. But one of the questions says, do you have a family doctor? Just to ask if you would like us to connect or what have you. Because what happens is, should the test come out positive, so it's not just that we give the test. We also do referrals for prevention, so to RHAC and other organizations. And then should it be positive, we would connect people to the IDCP at St. Joseph's, right? Where they would then go and do a confirmatory blood draw, because what we do is the point of care test. It's kind of a series of tests, right? Should it come out negative, then chances are, if you're outside of the window period, it is negative. However, if it is positive, we're mandated by public health for someone to do what is called a confirmatory blood draw. And so because of the specificity of the blood draw, that would then show that someone is positive. But upon that question being answered, a lot of people will say, no, I don't have a family doctor, or I don't want my family doctor to know. That is your choice. Your health, your choice. Okay? So we would connect them to IDCP, who would then look for a specialist for them. So, and then if you do choose to tell your doctor in the future, that's up to you.
Actually, people have an option to disclose, even at work. If you don't want to disclose, you don't have to disclose. You can just keep it as private as possible. Because of stigma, people choose to keep it as private as possible. So, and it's a team. Like she mentioned, St. Joe's, IDCP, we don't work like in isolation. We work as a team.
Okay. So the ladies are here to answer any questions you may have. Do feel free to call in if you have any questions, and I'll just throw it over to Colin, because I'm sure he's itching to say something.
I got a question, and I know we've talked about what stigma and all that stuff, right? There is what I think is what there needs to be, I think, is an effort on organizations such as yourself to be more not upfront, but be more forward with the message. Because I think, once again, when we talk about the message not being out there, not being in the consciousness, is because, as you said, when you're at home, the message is everywhere, right? But the message isn't out there. So we can talk about the privacy issue and all that stuff, but that's when they actually come to you. And that's only one aspect where people are worried about the privacy. I think the bigger troubles that I'm having is that the message itself isn't there. And so I'm asking, where does, you know, the London Health Sciences and everybody, where do they stand on getting the message out? And if you know that, like I said, we're making such a, our community is so affected, like we're right at, we're the second set after, right?
Actually, you know what, like I might have been wrong on that because we have injection drug uses as being second.
No, but
then
okay,
ACV.
but I'm still saying that in our community, right?
Yeah.
You, first of all, you know our communities, whether it's Caribbean, whether it's African, whether it's North American,
Yeah.
we have a stigma.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna draw parallels to COVID.
Yeah.
Middlesex Health Unit said, hey, the black community is being affected at a disappropriate rate, right? So we have to now get out there. They organized clinics. They had clinics with Black Lives Matter movement. They had clinics with the Wayne Community Center. So they were in the community in that aspect because they realized what's going on, right?
Absolutely.
So, and I don't see the same message. And unless the same message is, right, because and I'm going to speak from a Caribbean background. We don't want to hear the words, right? And until you guys truly explained it, there's a lot of people that didn't know the difference between HIV and AIDS. A lot of people think it's still back into, like when I was coming up, I came up in the Magic Johnson era, right? Magic Johnson is the only guy we know that had the money to be able to. And so HIV and AIDS were considered one word, right? So if there's no message, then our communities are not going to be getting to the point where we have to talk about privacy, because privacy is the least, right?
Yeah.
Privacy is the least, because we don't, you know, we don't talk about, hey, this stuff is still out there, right? Like I said, if I didn't search for that information, I wouldn't have known that it's still out there. So that's where I think has to be addressed before we get to privacy and before we get to, okay, we're having these clinics. There's got to be that general conversation to tell people, hey, this stuff is still relevant, this stuff is still destructive. It might not be as destructive as before, but it's still destructive nonetheless.
Absolutely.
So then I gotta ask, where is the health department, where are you guys on that kind of messaging?
Because of stigma again, sometimes you get a lot of dolls slapped on your face. So we quite have a lot of campaigns. Like we just had, It Takes Courage. I don't know if you found that. It takes courage to try and work with the faith communities, faith leaders, so that, because you know, African and Caribbean black communities, we are very spiritual people.
Yes.
So we're trying to convince the faith leaders that, listen, this is a huge issue. It's also part of the social determinants of health, you know, just like COVID. That's why we're so impacted. So we need the leaders who are like, sometimes they can be the gatekeepers, right? So we need them to be a part of this movement so that they can spread the message on our behalf. We did a training, but we didn't have, the uptake was very, 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 very low. So we're hoping to revive it and do it again so that we have, once we train the leaders, they have a lot of people who actually confide in them, and they also have the power to educate the community at a larger scale than us. So we are hoping to do that. And also having the self-test kits. We have like the little kits where people can actually do their own testing. And we're hoping again to have them be on board with us and be able to help the congregation or do the teachings in the congregation in a way that doesn't judge people, in a way that's welcoming everybody. We're all the same, right, in front of God. Instead of like, oh, you're here, stay there because you did A, B, C, D. It's not like that. So we're trying to make sure we get to that. And in the summer, unfortunately now we don't have summer like that's outdoors. We try to be in every festival. For example, Sunfest is one of the biggest in London. I'm not sure if you've paid attention, but we've always had like a booth where we actually try to like grab people like, okay, listen, here's the messaging, take it home and read about HIV and do all those things, right? And also, we have a lot of SCB farm workers. We reach out to them as well. We go to the farms. It's not part of my portfolio, but I also do that. So we go to the farms and educate them and talk about it and stuff like that. And we try. So because of the stigma, we cannot be a standalone. We try to partner in every event or with other sister agencies to make sure that we educate our community as much as we can. Newcomers, when they come, we work with settlement agencies to make sure that they get the messaging that you didn't leave HIV wherever you're coming from. There's also HIV here. We try to get them that way. But the gap that we have is the people who've been here for like more than 10, 15 years. It's hard for us to actually get their attention. So that's why we go to saloons, you know, go to specific stores, African and Caribbean Black stores. We go there and try to leave our pamphlets, all the resources and stuff like that. But it's a very low uptake, if I mean.
But then let me ask you again, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you talk about the churches. And to me, the physical church is in decline. We had a podcast about that, right? The physical church is in decline. The numbers aren't there that they're supposed to. The biggest numbers and the biggest in anything right now is your social media networks. And yes, and I'm not saying it's great to get out. It's great to get out. But when I think of a campaign, I'm going to go back to Middlesex Health Unit, right? They made sure they were into the Facebooks and the Instagrams. And they even asked us to send out WhatsApp messages because the general public, right? There's the religious public, and the general public, right? Yeah. The general public they're not aware. And yes, it's great to be at these events and outside and saying that, but unless there's a sort of message that when I'm on social media, regardless of the stigma, when I'm social media, there are things that are out there, there's messages that are out there that people are going to look and see. Like just by even putting up that 16% of these people, of our people in Ontario, you know,
yeah, we do. We do have social media platforms. And
are the social media platforms in the right places? Because like you know what, I think nowadays because of our platform, we have to be on social media, right? I was a social media, whatever you want to call it before, but now I'm out there. I've never seen a message that said this.
I think maybe now that you're here, we're going to use your platform.
And I'm not just talking about my platform. And this is one thing. I don't want you to think that I'm saying whether we're already using my platform. When I'm on Facebook, right? I'm looking at everything, and I don't see that message. Did I see the message that the Middlesex Health Unit was, you know, with COVID, right? Yes, it was so blatantly out there, and of course it had to be because of what they're trying to do.
Okay.
Is there that kind of strategy? Because, like I said, church numbers are down, right, all across, and I can say that we also stream at churches, so we know church numbers are down. The religious influence is not what it used to be, right? So especially when you start getting into a demographic, let's say from 19, you know, up to that, it's not, right? You talk about people that have been here, and obviously with the immigrants, you actually able to channel that, and you're talking about getting to the people that are already here, right? So it's like there's that actual medium. I think
absolutely.
The basis of journalism was like the medium is the message is the media, right? So unless you're hitting the right medium, then it doesn't matter if you go to the churches. It doesn't matter if you go to the parks and everything, because you're still not going to get who you are. And the last analogy I'm going to draw is that as a promoter, right? Radio went out, right? So radio wasn't the way to advertise anymore. But what radio did was it reinforced what was out there. But we had to get to the other level. We had to start getting to a different level because this wasn't relevant anymore. And I'm not, like I said, not to say what you're doing is not relevant. I'm just wondering, it hasn't hit the right platforms?
So I'll talk a little bit in terms of options. We actually have so many partnerships that we've done in terms of social media. So even like with colleges, Fanshawe, with universities, with CLI College, that's an ACB college. So many things that we're doing on social media. The interesting thing is I find that our people don't want to engage as much or share. So you would find people of other races or other colors like coming together and sharing these things. But I feel that, well, I straight up asked one brother, I said to him, brother, why are we not sharing this stuff? Why aren't people coming to test? And he said, so that what? Family know that I'm doing things that will get me HIV.
And that's where,
Exactly.
and okay, so I'm gonna, and that's where I'm gonna talk again about you can't hit the individual because for the individual to go on, they're not gonna want to do it because of the stigma
Exactly.
attached.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
their groups are out there. There's Black Lives Matter. There's Congress of Black Women. There's all these other groups that are capable, if you're partnering up with them, that are able to put it out and not be affected by the stigma. And those are the groups that I think that you have to find. Yes, if you ask the individual, me as an individual 10 years ago, I would have looked you over and go, who, what, right? Me put it out there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and,
also,
also,
in light of
organizations like WeBridge, we've also done info sessions.
Yeah.
Where, and also I would say like this event is something that we put our heads together. Look, like women getting tested is decreasing in numbers. Come on, let's see what we can do, right? To encourage people. So, and why we're having this event as well is not just to say HIV, it's wellness. Like, come, let's talk about everything. Even if you say today I don't want to talk about HIV, there might be a time in the future that you want to talk about it, right? So that's why we're making it open to as many women as we can get. Of course, the focus group will need 10 people, but just in general, to have Black women to come and talk about things that they might not necessarily feel open to talking about to somebody else.
Absolutely. So now that because of COVID, we're trying to do like Zoom events and blasting like some information on WhatsApp. So we're trying to evolve. It's like changing with the times as well. And again, we can't do it on our own. So we still need our community. We still need you as a social media person. We need young people to help us to reach out and spread the message. The students, also like our go-to groups, they help us a lot. We work hand in hand with them, but it's a challenge for our community because of the stigma.
So I just wanted to ask, because with Tinder and all these other dating sites, I never see anything that kind of like floats at the bottom to say, hey, watch out for these things. I know it will turn people up, but there are kids like who are young, like younger kids, like even having the conversation with my kids, they'll probably think that's a dinosaur subject. There's COVID and other things going on nowadays. HIV was for your time, right?
Yeah.
But we also have children who are at the age of 16, they find that they have their liberty and they can have sex and all this other stuff, and they want to reach out, and they are on these sites and they are having sex with older people. So where are you meeting these 16-year-olds? Like, I mean, I understand the universities and all this stuff. Are you also going into high schools, educating high schools?
Yeah.
And are you also going, like, because I feel like right now, there's a lot in our music, in our community, with all these sites, plenty of fish and door, a lot of things are being pushed to the wrong crowd, and knowing that that is out there and it's lurking somewhere and it can catch someone.
Yeah.
What are we doing for the younger generation?
We do actually. We do presentations in like high schools, colleges, universities. We try, but then when it comes to like Tinder, it goes back to like having enough funding to actually run that platform.
Yeah.
So we don't have the capacity to do some of these things. So that's a huge challenge. Unless if we can get like volunteers who can do that. I know for MSM, they are actively working on Tinder because they have more funding. They have a bigger budget than what we have. But yeah, I'm also taking notes and trying to see, like, sometimes that's why we try to educate parents. So if we educate parents, hoping that it will trickle down to the kids.
And also to just motivate that. Like, parents, talk to your kids about sex. It's so uncomfortable to talk about sex. I don't know why. We're all here breathing because somebody had sex. So, honestly, like, I implore you to talk to your children about sex. I find that, a lot of the research I did, because I kind of was taken aback. I've been in Canada for 4 years, so I was taken aback to hear that ACB community, HIV is so, like, it's still this way here. Coming from Africa, I'm thinking, why is it that I feel like things are going backwards here in terms of HIV?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what has been my experience as well. We don't talk about it. I feel like being a Southern African, over there, it's like you can talk about it anytime, any minute. Like, it's not a taboo, right?
Yeah.
But we come here, I feel like we go under the carpet kind of thing, like under the shell. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't talk about it anymore. I'm like, why? Like,
yeah, I think also like in our culture, it's almost like, oh, are you doing it at the right time? And who are you doing with? Like, you know what, whatever. We're having sex, even if it's behind closed doors. People get self-kits. If you don't want to test with me, get a self-test kit, right? Do whatever you need to do to protect you, to you.
So whether you talk about it or not, they're still going to have it. So why not talk about it? Instead of them discovering through Google or, other ways, friends, tell them the truth,
So we
teach
are
them when
running
they're
out of
younger.
time. So I know there may be something that you might have thought was very important that you wanted to share on this particular live today. Is there something that you would like the community to know that will help them understand this better, or where they can reach you, or something that you might have missed along the way that you feel was really relevant for you to say to them? Well,
I think I want to say that being HIV positive is not a death sentence. There's medication now that you can take and be healthy like anybody else. So if you're HIV positive, don't hide. You're not alone. There's so many people who are living their healthy lives. And talk to your pastor, talk to any faith leader, talk to somebody. Reach us at Regional HIV and AIDS Connection. If you go on the website, there are phone numbers there. Talk to somebody. Don't hide. Talk to your kids. They have to know at a younger age. Don't let them discover. Talk to them, talk to them, talk to them.
Okay. Yes.
I agree. Talk. Let's talk about HIV. I just want to say London Intercommunity Health Center is here for you guys, like for all of us. Options Clinic is where you'll find us. So we do have social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram. Our TikTok might not be as recent, but we're there. Come onto the website, come and book anonymous tests, come and ask questions. We're very open, and please do come to the ACB Women in the Community. We're looking forward to seeing you this Saturday. And for the men, don't be held back. We're going to do something for you in the upcoming year.
Absolutely. If you need one-on-one, you can give us a call again. Our contacts on our website as well. So we'll be happy to respond to any questions.
Okay, well, I thank you ladies for coming to the show today. And it was eye-opening. I mean, like, a lot of questions have been answered. And just prior to the show, we just had the conversation, like, why would you be having a show like this? It's a dinosaur topic. I keep saying dinosaur because that's ancient. It's
Let's make AIDS a dinosaur.
Yeah, let's make AIDS a dinosaur for sure. But I feel like with all these new pandemics coming, HIV was a pandemic at one point. but
Absolutely.
it's still there. That's the reality of things. So it's something that, as a community, we need to address. We need to wrap it up. And
Absolutely.
And I'm just gonna jump in for a second.
Sure.
Obviously, I gotta give once again a big shout out to our sponsors. But before I do that, I want to thank the ladies for being part of this or allowing us to be a part of this.
Yes.
People, once again, even though it's not in the consciousness, HIV is there. AIDS is there, even though AIDS is not as relevant. Can I say it's not as relevant as before because there's you don't have to get it, but HIV is relevant. I know there's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of people that are, we're all scared about certain things. Let's do the right thing. I'm gonna go old school for Angel over here, right? So Angel, I'm gonna go a little old school right now. Salt and pepper. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things that
That's
baby.
right.
Let's talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Words of the song. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to have these conversations with each other. Don't be afraid to have these conversations with your kids. This is what Real Talk, Straight Talk is all about. Once again, I want to thank our sponsors, the Wien Community Center. I want to thank Angel here at the Fix Hair Salon. Up Like 7 Barbershop up at Clark Road. Down the road from them, United Cuts. I want to thank the Ollie Agency. Did I get that right, Pastor Charmaine? Ollie Agency, which is a commercial interior design agency. Our partners out in Ottawa, Rhythm Movements Community Association. Big shouts to Mr. Brooks from the 613. Hamilton, I'm going all the way to Hamilton. Soul Kitchen Radio, Big John up there, Soul Kitchen Radio. I believe we're going to have a new partner, Richards. I got to talk about Richards.
Yes.
Richards, and they're on Richmond Street.
Right.
Richards, people looking for the clothes, Richards, right?
If you want to get your tags on,
Yes.
you got to check out Rich's Clothing.
Gotta check out Rich's.
It's really good too.
Last but not least, Paranine Bar and Grill. Got to send a big shout out to all those people over there. This has been another edition of Real Talk, Straight Talk. You know what we like to say? Fade to.
Oh, this is a blackout.
Yeah, let's go.
This is a blackout. We done. Thank you.
Thank
When
you.
did
Thank
you
you for
tell
having
everyone
us.
of old